Welcome to Honeybee, real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name is Jeffrey, and life has a way of testing you when you least expect it. A year ago, everything I had built with my own two hands slipped away. At first, I tried to stay strong. I kept telling myself it was just a setback and I'd recover soon. But as the weeks dragged on, I started noticing changes in my wife. The respect in her eyes began to fade. It's hard to explain what it feels like to look at the woman you love and realize she sees you as nothing more than a burden. Our arguments grew over small things, but nothing could prepare me for what followed. She brought another man into my house. She actually thought I'd sit there and accept it. What she didn't know was that when a man who has already lost everything gets pushed past his breaking point, he pushes back. And what happened next was something she never expected. When I first met Deborah, life was good. My business was thriving, my days were steady, and I had a comfortable routine. Deborah was a senior manager at one of the companies my firm had just started working with. In the beginning, our interactions were strictly business. We both respected each other's skill and professionalism, and that mutual respect sparked something. One successful deal led to another, and soon late-night meetings and long email threads turned into easy conversations and laughter. I eventually asked her out, and when she smiled and said yes, everything changed. Our first date was effortless, no pressure, no pretending, just two people who already knew each other well. After that, things clicked naturally. We kept seeing each other, and within months, it felt like we were inseparable. People around us often joked that we were a perfect match. We enjoyed being seen as a power couple. It felt good to have someone beside me who understood the demands of long hours and business stress without resentment. And yet, when it was time to relax, we could enjoy quiet nights at home or weekends away together. About a year into our relationship, Deborah brought up wanting a child. She was open about being in her mid-30s and not wanting to wait any longer. I respected her honesty, and we talked about it seriously. We both agreed that if we were going to take that step, we wanted to do it right. That's when wedding plans began. And the wedding was grand. CEOs, clients, even government officials attended. For a while, marriage felt just as beautiful as that day. I truly believed I had found my person. Financially, we were secure. Emotionally, we were in sync. That first year of marriage was solid. We communicated, made decisions together, and supported one another. She handled her job, I managed mine, and in the evenings we'd sit down, talk, and unwind. Soon we started trying for kids. That was especially important to Deborah, but month after month, nothing happened. Eventually, we learned that conceiving naturally would be difficult. We turned to IVF, expensive, exhausting, and emotionally heavy. But we made it through. And when our son was born, everything else faded into the background. Becoming a father was one of my proudest moments. I scaled back work travel to spend more time at home, while Deborah returned to her career after maternity leave. 3 years later, things began to fall apart. Outwardly, we still looked fine, but my world was crumbling. A business partner we'd trusted was caught in a massive financial fraud. Since we were publicly tied to them, the backlash hit us just as hard. We weren't guilty of anything, but the public didn't wait for evidence. Clients vanished overnight, and in less than a month, nearly all our contracts disappeared. I lost 90% of our income and assets. My name, my company's reputation, everything was dragged through the mud. We filed a lawsuit, but the legal process was slow, costly, and draining. Meanwhile, bills piled up, employees needed to be paid. My family still had to eat. I burned through our savings, trying to keep it all afloat. Eventually, I had to admit I couldn't carry it alone. That was a bitter truth, because I had always been the provider. One night, after putting our son to bed, I sat Deborah down and confessed how badly I was struggling. I asked her to take on a few responsibilities, maybe help with some bills until we got back on track. Her reaction was ice cold. She looked at me with disgust and said, "This isn't my mess to fix." Then she walked away. I sat there stunned, realizing all I needed was a little support from the woman who had vowed to stand by me. After that, things spiraled. Deborah grew distant. She avoided me, avoided conversations, and barely touched me anymore. On the rare occasion she did help financially, it came with criticism and resentment. I kept hoping it was temporary, that once the lawsuit was resolved, things would improve. But week after week, it became clear I was the only one fighting for us. Looking back, I realized how alone I already was. She suddenly began traveling often, seminars, work trips, always conveniently timed around weekends or important dates. She'd return emotionally absent, glued to her phone, barely speaking. She guarded that phone like it was her lifeline, always face down, always on silent, even in bed. I'd catch her whispering into the speaker late at night, turning her back so I couldn't see. Deep down, I knew what it meant, but I didn't want to accuse her without proof. So I focused on my case. The lawsuit was finally turning in our favor. The lawyers had found key evidence, and for the first time in a long time, I had hope. I held on to the idea that once the storm passed, she would come back to me. Then came the night everything changed. Deborah said she was going out with friends. By then, I'd stopped keeping track. She had been using the same excuse for months. After putting our son to bed, I went to sleep. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen to make coffee and froze. There stood a man I had never seen before, shirtless, making himself comfortable. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming. I asked, as calmly as I could, "Who are you?" Before he could respond, Deborah walked in, hair messy from the night. I looked at her and asked, "Who is this, and how long has this been going on? I just want the truth." Her response was venom. She crossed her arms and snapped, "Don't start questioning me, Jeffrey. You don't own me. Just because we're married on paper doesn't mean you get to control who I spend time with." I turned to the man and asked if he knew she was married. He smirked, and something inside me broke. The weight of failed contracts, silent dinners, emotional neglect, all of it snapped in that instant. I hit him, and I didn't stop at one. Deborah screamed, calling me pathetic, insecure, violent. She wasn't horrified by what she'd done. She was furious that I reacted. That man ran out half-dressed, and I sat there realizing the truth. The marriage I had been clinging to existed only in my imagination. Later, in my office, I replayed everything in my head. I'd never laid hands on anyone before, but in that moment, something inside me cracked. What if he pressed charges? What if I made everything worse? But even deeper than fear of the law was the emotional wreckage. How did the woman who once prayed over my ambitions turn into someone who invited another man into our home? It wasn't just about cheating. It was about respect. She hadn't just fallen out of love. She had lost all respect for me. And once respect is gone, the marriage is only an empty shell. That night, I opened my laptop, documented everything, and by morning, I called my lawyer. The marriage was over. I was done fighting for someone who had already walked away. The divorce was long, draining, and ugly. At first, Deborah was calm, as if she thought she'd walk away free. But when she realized she'd have to contribute financially, her tone shifted. She earned more than I did at that point, and when the lawyers made it clear, she fought hard, switching lawyers, filing motions, painting me as unstable. But the court saw the truth. I was granted primary custody of our son, along with the house. It made sense. This was his home. Deborah tried to fight, but the evidence spoke for itself. For the first time, I felt validated. Someone in authority said, "No, you're not crazy. You were doing right by your child." As for support payments, I accepted them without guilt. She never offered help when I was drowning in debt, selling things to cover food. So no, I didn't feel bad when the tables turned. When the divorce was finalized, it didn't feel like victory. She was free to chase her happiness, and I was free to rebuild without the constant weight of resentment. Months later, my company was officially cleared of any wrongdoing. The investigation proved we were innocent, and we even received compensation for damage done. No money could erase the sleepless nights or the humiliation, but it was something. It meant I could start fresh. I rebuilt the business from the ground up, trimming away what didn't matter and focusing on what truly worked. It was therapy in its own way. Every now and then, I think about that day when Deborah brought another man into my house. He never pressed charges, though he could have. Sometimes I reflect on that moment, not out of guilt, but gratitude, because it could have destroyed far more than just a marriage. I'm not proud of how I reacted that day, but I am proud of how I rebuilt afterward. Most importantly, I still have my son. He is my anchor, my purpose. Everything I do now is for him. Sometimes I wonder how something that began with so much love and hope turned into betrayal and chaos. But I don't dwell on it. I've made peace with the truth. Some people are only meant to walk with you for part of the journey. And when their time is over, you let them go. I let Deborah go. And in doing so, I found myself again.